All right, guys. Hey, welcome and thank you for joining us for this performance nutrition webinar. I'm excited to have you guys here. And listen, I know that everybody's time is super valuable. So let's go ahead and let's just dive right on in. For those of you guys who don't know me, my name is Rob Van Valkenburg. I'm a strength and conditioning coach. And the nutrition area is something that I've really tried to dial in because every single athlete that I work with has asked me the question of what do I eat? What do I put in my body? And how can I fuel myself to become a better athlete, right? So without further ado, let's jump in and let's get after this. So what are we doing here, right? What is the goal behind this webinar, right? Why are we here? And we're here because nutrition guidance and coaching for high school athletes needs to be simplified. I think a lot of athletes get frustrated and discouraged because they don't have a clear picture of really what they need to do from a nutrition standpoint, and it hasn't been described to them in a way that's going to allow them to really decipher it and be successful with it. So my goal with this is to kind of filter through the noise and give us a real clear picture of what a high school age athlete needs to do in order to, number one, fuel for performance, but number two, also hit their body weight goals, because pretty much every athlete that I work with has either a weight loss or a weight gain goal, because it's going to allow them to play their sport at a higher level. It's going to allow them to be recruited, and it's going to allow them to maybe take a step up in their athletic performance. So I want to try and simplify what we're doing and make it applicable for all high school age athletes. Now, here's the problem, right? Here's the problem with nutrition. As you can see over here, this is what athletes are typically recommended to eat on their plate, right? 50% fruits and vegetables, 25% protein, and 25% carbohydrates. And listen, now I think that that is a great approach, but one problem with that is that it's not sustainable for a 14, 15, or 16-year-old athlete, right? They might be able to do it for a couple of nights, but if we're talking about being able to do this over the long haul to see real results and real improvements with our performance, we need to have a better approach that is more applicable and something that athletes can be a little bit more successful with. So before we dive in, I want to give you guys a little bit of background on me. I am a 15-year strength and conditioning veteran. I've coached at pretty much all levels from the NFL Combine prep. This is our NFL Combine class. This was 2009. Coached at the collegiate level. This is coaching at Purdue University. I'm the guy in the middle right here. I've got the Old Oak and bucket hanging from my teeth. This was right after we beat Indiana in 2012. This is a big game, last game of the season, and the game that allowed us to be bowl eligible. Ironically, about 2 hours after this picture was taken, the head coach got fired, but that's just the way that it goes. In addition to that, I work with a multitude of high school age athletes. This is a team here in Colorado, Thunder Ridge, and we were lucky enough to have a great group of guys from their program. We also work with female athletes, and nutrition is such a valuable thing for these female athletes. And one thing that when we started working with female athletes that really became apparent is that they need just as much guidance as the fellas do. We also work with middle school age athletes. I hate this picture with the masks on, but COVID was a wild time. This is a group of 8th grade athletes that were going through our introductory to strength program, and somewhere we also introduced some nutrition coaching with them, trying to get them thinking about eating at that young age before they get into high school. And then the last one is just these are a couple of my big hog mollies. 3 of the 4 here went on to go play professional, and as you can tell, weight gain is a real thing when we're looking at young athletes. But we want to make sure that it's proper weight gain, because for 90% of these athletes, after high school, that's it. So how are we going to set them up so they've got a proper body composition, but also proper eating habits? And that's something I'm really excited to dive into today. Now, what are our goals with this presentation? First and foremost, I want to outline how an athlete can build a nutrition strategy to fuel their performance. We're aiming to provide insights into what healthy eating habits actually look like. We want to be realistic about nutrition, and so that it's presented in a way that high school athletes can follow and be successful with. We're going to cover safe supplementation. This is one thing every single 15-year-old kid's going to ask you, what should I take for a pre-workout? Should I take creatine? Should I take protein powder? We're going to dive into that a little bit. And as well, we want to teach meal prep strategies so that proper nutrition can be as painless as possible. Because a lot of times with meal prep, that's going to be something that mom or dad's going to need to help out with, at least on the front end. Hopefully, this is something that after they do it for a while, they can get the hang of the meal prep. But on the front end, no one needs to burn their kitchen down. So we're going to teach meal prep strategies so that proper nutrition can be as painless as possible. Now, what are we not going to cover? And I think this is an important thing, right? We're not going to cover unhealthy or unsustainable approaches to nutrition. We're not going to cover meal plans or exact macro targets. And we're not going to cover unnecessary supplements and pre-workout drinks. Now, one thing I want to mention on this is I am not a registered dietitian. I'm a strength conditioning coach. I've worked with thousands of athletes, and I've really kind of dove into the nutrition side of things because it is the best way for me to elevate what we do in the weight room and what we do on the field and elevate that so that we see the best results possible so that their performance can improve. Just so I'm saying on the front end, you're not dealing with a registered dietitian. I'm just a strength coach who happens to be very interested in the nutrition side of things and very passionate about helping athletes make smart nutrition decisions. Now, something I think that we should consider is a lot of times athletes show poor performance and it shows up as being out of shape. But I'd like you to consider something that is there a potential that in many cases athletes are not out of shape, they're just under fueled, right? I think everybody's had the moment where they go out for a run or they're out of practice or they're in a workout and we get halfway through and you feel like you hit a wall. Now, for a coach, that may show that, oh man, they're out of shape, right? Their cardiovascular is not where it needs to be, when really it's that they didn't fuel themselves the proper way leading into whether it's practice or a game or whatever scenario that you're in. And this is also a really important thing when we look at how we're going to perform. If you take football, for example, right? How are we going to perform late in the fourth quarter? Are we going to be able to have the right amount of stamina? And that is all fueled by how you prepare for the day, how you hydrate, what fuel you put into your body, and what type of nutrients that you have so that late in the game you can still perform well. Now, if we're looking at areas for development, and let's take a 15-year-old athlete, for example, and we're going into the off season. You've got about an 8-month off season ahead of you, and you're saying, what are the areas that I can really develop? The fun ones are the first two, right? Our strength and speed training, what you're doing in the weight room, what you're doing on the turf, how you're getting bigger, faster, and stronger. The second one is your sport-specific skills training. This is something everybody loves, right? It's something that's becoming more of a year-round thing for most athletes. Football players are playing 7-on-7 year-round. Baseball players are hitting or throwing year-round. You name the sport, and it's becoming a year-round thing. So your sport-specific skill training is a year-round importance for your athletic performance. And then the last one is the one that the athletes don't like quite as much, and that's your nutrition. But I might argue that nutrition is the most important aspect when you're looking at the development of a 14, 15, or 16-year-old athlete. Like you can give a 16-year-old kid the worst strength conditioning program possible, and they're still going to get bigger and stronger because they've got testosterone and all the hormones going through their body. But if you give them that with proper nutrition, man, let me tell you, I think some scary things can happen in a very positive way. All right, guys, so let's dive in. One of the biggest things that we're going to be covering in this webinar is what I call our 5 rules for performance nutrition. And these are 5 simple things that if you do consistently, you're going to see great results. And we've tried to really dial it back and be as simplistic as we can. Again, like we've talked about a few times so far, is we want this to be simple and sustainable so that a 17-year-old can do this and it can be no problem. So our first rule is to eat 3 to 5 meals per day that are comprised of protein, carbohydrate, a complex carbohydrate, and healthy fats. This is something I know everybody's heard before, but I really want to hammer it home is the importance of breakfast, lunch, and dinner, right? A lot of athletes, when they come into my gym in the afternoons, I ask them, what'd you have for lunch? And they say, a piece of pizza. Well, listen, a piece of pizza doesn't count as a meal, right? That's just bread with cheese on top. There's no protein. That does not count as one of your 3 to 5 meals for the day. We want to make sure that we're getting a minimum of 3 meals that have a good quality protein, a complex carbohydrate, and a healthy fat. Now, what does that all look like? And I'm going to list 5 for each category, but accompanying this webinar, you're going to get a link to our 8-week nutrition program. And in there is a shopping list that's going to dive a whole lot deeper into what some other food options are for you. So for fats, we're looking at avocados, nuts, seeds, whole eggs, meat, and fish. You can also put in this category some of the better oils, olive oil or coconut oil. For protein, right, your meat, eggs, Greek yogurt, protein powder, and cottage cheese. Those are all great options. With the Greek yogurt and the cottage cheese, if you're somebody who doesn't handle lactose well, which I know a lot of athletes have issues with lactose, both of those have some better lactose-free options that have been coming out that aren't completely plant-based. Not that there's anything wrong with plant-based. If there's any vegans watching this, but there's some good lactose-free options, especially on the Greek yogurt. Fage has a plain lactose-free Greek yogurt that I think very highly of. And then carbohydrates. Let me move my head here. Carbohydrates. This is your rice, potatoes, oatmeal, pasta, and vegetables. We want to think about how your food sources can be broken down the smallest amount possible. So the analogy of that baked potato versus a potato chip, right? It starts out as this great whole food that's super nutritious, but to turn that thing into a potato chip, it's sliced and diced, fried, salted, seasoned, and all the other stuff that go into it that make it so delicious, but it also turns it into a very poor fuel source. So while in terms of tracking your carbohydrates, you may be hitting your carbohydrate goals, you're not getting a complex carbohydrate that's going to give you a high food quality that's then going to give you the energy that you need for whatever you need, whether it's practice, a game, or just for eating healthy for life. We want to make sure that we're keeping our carbohydrates as complex as possible, staying away from the sweets, and keeping it to as much whole foods as you possibly can. The second rule is to track your food for 7 days so you know exactly where you can improve. And the first 7 days that you're in any type of nutrition coaching program or you're trying to clean up your nutrition, we really think it's valuable to get a food tracking app so everything that goes in your mouth gets recorded and you have a completely accurate breakdown of what you've been consuming. And the 2 apps that we really recommend are the Carbon app and MyFitnessPal Plus. Both have a quality-free version. And this is something that we want you to do for 7 days. So you really know, okay, I'm way behind on my protein, which that's the case for most athletes, is they're way deficient when it comes to their protein intake. Or you can look at it and say, well, wow, I am not hitting my calorie numbers, or wow, I'm trying to go from 320 to 290 pounds. I need to be in a little bit of a calorie deficit, and I'm definitely not there based on what I'm putting in my body. So after the 7 days, you can look at it and say, okay, these are the changes that I need to make, so that way you can stop tracking and then begin to eat intuitively because you have a pretty good feel for what needs to go into your body and what that cadence of feeding should really look like. Rule number 3 is to meal prep, so you set yourself up for success each week. With meal prep, we recommend to prep 5 breakfasts and 10 snacks. This is going to cover you Monday through Friday, and we don't recommend to meal prep lunch. We think that there's too many things that get in the way from athletes actually eating it, right? You've got to have a fridge to put your food in. You've got to maybe have a microwave to heat it up in. You want to have a friend group that you're going to go out to lunch with, which the social aspect of high school is incredibly important. So we recommend 5 breakfasts and 10 snacks. Shown here are some really good options: an egg casserole or a simple egg dish that you can section off into 5 things, pull out of the fridge, and you're ready to go in like under 3 minutes. Overnight oats are a great way to go right here. This is something that's kind of exploded on social media lately, but you can get 45 to 50 grams of good quality protein in a simple overnight oats. You're getting a great carbohydrate. You're putting fruit in there. We like to have our athletes put chia seeds and flaxseed in there and really make it a phenomenal way to start your day. The old saying that breakfast is the most important meal of the day. It's absolutely true. If you look at the word breakfast, right, that you break down that word, it's break fast, right? You're in a fasted state when you wake up. And we want to make sure that we break that in a very quality way. And we don't want to do the lazy thing where we have like a banana at 9 a.m. That's not going to cut it if you're trying to be a high level athlete and you're trying to hit body composition goals or performance goals. You really need to lock in what you're doing first thing in the morning. And meal prepping is going to be the number one way that you can really set yourself up for success. That way, you're not rolling out of bed and asking the question of, well, what am I going to have for tomorrow or for breakfast tomorrow? You can be set up and ready to go. And then in terms of snacks, we want to keep it as clean as possible. We don't want to have a Snickers bar and a bag of chips before practice. Something that is good high protein. Right here, I've got some beef jerky shown. And in a later slide, we'll dive a little bit deeper into what some good food choices are for your snacks throughout the day. Number 4 is I want you to drink your body weight in ounces of water. This can be a lot at first because we're not used to pounding the water. But when we look at the benefits of hydration, it's impossible to argue just how important it is. If you're an athlete and you're working out multiple times in the day, or even if you're just working out once a day, you really need to be hydrated as much as possible. Obviously, just water is a phenomenal thing, but if you have the access to something that's an electrolyte supplement, especially if you're in season, it's a great way to go. I love Elements right here. It's as clean as you can get, and it's really just salt, and it doesn't taste too bad. There's also Liquid IV and Prime, which everyone seems to be drinking Prime right now. They recently come out with a liquid hydration multiplier, especially if you're in a warm weather climate where you feel like you're sweating more. Getting those electrolytes are extremely important when we look at cognitive function, decision making, injury reduction, as well as just natural processes in the body. Being hydrated is one of the most important things we can do. And then number 5, you want to eat 1 gram of protein for every pound of goal body weight, right? And that should be a minimum for all athletes. We want to make sure that we're putting on lean muscle. So what we do in the weight room is going to cross over to great gains with our physique and with our performance. And a good starting point is 1 gram of protein for every pound of body weight. And again, like we mentioned earlier, we want that to be as clean of a protein as you can possibly have. So again, something that hasn't been broken down very much, isn't battered, isn't fried. Of course, we're dealing with young kids, so chicken nuggets and chicken strips and that type of stuff's gonna happen. We just want to make sure that we're limiting it and making the right decisions. Thing that pops into my head with that is kind of that 80-20 rule, right? 80% of the time, let's make great decisions, and 20% of the time, you know what, like, let's go to Chick-fil-A and get a chicken sandwich. It's an okay thing, but we want to make sure it's in moderation. Again, we're looking at having a good body composition and also instilling habits that are going to last us a lifetime, because when you hang those cleats up at 18 or 22 or whenever that time happens, you need to know how to eat, because I'm 38, and when you're my age, man, you can't be eating the chicken nuggets and the fried food as much as you could when you were 17. You just can't get away with it anymore. I put here the beef builds better babies. My family's got a cattle ranch down in the panhandle of Texas, and they've got this sign hanging above the entrance to their farm. And I think it's true, man. Getting protein in your body is such an important thing, and usually something that people are very, very deficient in. And again, if there's any vegans on here, I'm probably going to offend you about 5 more times, so I apologize in advance. Now, how to make healthy meal choices. We're going to touch on both meal prep and on-the-go options as we go through here. So first one, breakfast. If we're meal prepping, right, we're looking at an egg casserole, the overnight oats that we dove into a little bit earlier, an egg and meat scramble. That's something that you can do ahead of time. Again, section it off and have it ready to go. You can make egg muffins or egg bites. Again, you Google a simple recipe and you can make pretty similar to what you get at Starbucks. And then a simple Greek yogurt with a scoop of protein powder. Mix that up. You can put fruit and berries in there, and that can be something that you get 45, 50 grams of protein in, and it's pretty quick. You can meal prep that up in a mason jar at the start of the week, have 5 ready to go. And again, right, we want to set ourselves up for success, because if we spend an hour doing it on Sunday, it's really going to make it so we're not going through that McDonald's drive-through, or we're not just grabbing a granola bar on the way out the door. We want to make sure that we're getting those good, high protein, complex carbohydrate, and healthy fat options in our body first thing in the morning. And then on the go, I've got a slide coming up after this that'll show you a few of these. There's a company called Sandwich Bros. You can get them in any grocery store. A whole lot better than your Jimmy Dean microwavable breakfast sandwiches. They're just a little bit cleaner. Protein waffles with peanut butter spread on top. Some store-bought egg bites. There's actually some pretty high-quality ones. I've got a picture of that on the next slide as well. A peanut butter jelly and a protein shake, or just an instant oatmeal with a protein shake, where you sometimes with that instant oatmeal, you just put a scoop of protein right in there and flavor it, so you can get like a chocolate flavored oatmeal. Those are a couple options that you can look at when we're looking at making healthy decisions, because sometimes something is better than nothing. And I know we mentioned earlier the term breakfast being break fast, right? And think about this, right? Let's say you eat breakfast at 7 a.m., but you had dinner the night before at 7 p.m. That's 12 hours where you're putting nothing into your body. We want to make sure, number one, that we shorten the amount of time that we're in a fasting state, and number two, that we pull ourselves out of that fasting state in a really effective way. And again, by meal prepping, having a plan, and also having a fail-safe with these on-the-go options. If for some reason you don't meal prep, or if your little brother eats your meal prep, or for whatever reason a speed bump comes up, how can we course correct and have healthy options so that we're ready to go and we're breaking that fast in a good, healthy way? And then again, I know I mentioned a couple of these on-the-go options. This Sandwich Bros, I think, is really, really good. It's just really a pita with egg whites and a turkey sausage. It's got 11 grams of protein in each one, so you can heat up 2 of them. You're going to get 22 grams of protein, and you're out the door in 5 minutes with a pretty healthy meal. That's going to give you a good fat. It's going to give you your good protein and a nice complex carbohydrate. These egg bites, these are pretty good. They're actually pretty sizable in terms of size, so you can have just 2 of them, and you're getting good protein in, and you're starting the day the right way. And then this company, Kodiak Cakes, they do these protein oats. They also have a protein waffle that's kind of like an Eggo that you can do. You put a little peanut butter on that, and while these options aren't your ideal option, they're a whole lot better than nothing. And when we look at the reality of things, if we're dealing with a 15 to 18-year-old kid, sometimes we need these options that are going to allow us to just kind of get things done and move on. Because really, nothing's ever going to be perfect, and we're always going to have these bumps in the road. So let's build some bumpers, so that way we can kind of continue down and make progress as much as we possibly can. Now, lunch options. I know we mentioned before that we don't meal prep, but if you are somebody who's got a longer lunch break and you're able to go home, or you've got access in a coach's office to a microwave and a fridge, here's some lunch options that you can do on a meal prep side of things. Chicken and rice, burrito bowls, some homemade burrito bowls, ground beef, beans, jasmine rice with a little bit of lime as a burrito bowl. A good pasta with a meat sauce. There is a new pasta out, and the name of the brand I'm drawing a blank on right now, but it's actually chock full of protein. So it's in a yellow box, and forgive me for forgetting the name, but that can be something that you can be super successful with, and that's super easy. You just grab some beef, put some tomato sauce over it, and get that protein pasta, mix it up, 5 containers, and you're good to go. Crock pot meals are a super easy thing, especially when we're talking about like a 17-year-old being able to do this. Like any 17-year-old can put some things in a crock pot and hit start. You can Google that, or you go on Instagram, and you're going to find 1,000 different recipes for high protein, healthy crock pot meals. And then also just a sandwich, fruit, and a protein shake, right? I know it's kind of old school, but you can pack a sandwich, have a piece of fruit, get a lot of meat on there, and then have a protein shake, and you're going to check every box that you need from that clean protein, complex carbohydrates, and healthy fat standpoint. Now, on the go, this is going to be like 80% of you high school athletes, you guys' choices are going to be eating on the go, whether you're in the cafeteria, going to a convenience store, or going out to eat. Always trying to, when you're at let's say Chick-fil-A or Wendy's or something like that, trying to get the grilled chicken sandwich. Um, that is something that's not nearly as fun. Like, don't get me wrong, I like a spicy chicken sandwich, but if you're looking to fuel your performance, that fried food is going to make you pretty lethargic. And also, if you're looking to put on good weight and have a proper body composition, limiting the fried food from that 80-20, right, good decision to poor decision spectrum could be very important. Chipotle is a phenomenal option. Even if you do the burrito with the cheese, like that's fine. This is going to be a pretty good option. It's going to give you a good number of calories, great carbohydrates, pretty clean protein, and something that you can be very successful in terms of having a good solid lunch. An RTD shake is a ready to drink shake, so that's like core power, your core power protein shake or your muscle milk or something like that you can get at a convenience store. So you go into a gas station, get your core power, a piece of fruit, and a protein bar, and that's going to be a pretty good lunch. Obviously, it's not ideal. It's not the most whole food choices, but it can be chalked up as a win, especially if you compare it to a piece of pizza or some of the other junk that they'll serve you at the cafeteria. A sandwich with double meat. So if you go to Jimmy John's or Jersey Mike's or Firehouse Subs, um, that sandwich with that bread, that's not going to kill you. That's not the end of the world, especially if you've got the metabolism of a high school kid. But just have them put extra meat on there to kind of up that protein and make it a little bit more nutritious for you. And then fast food, let's say you go to Del Taco or Taco Bell or something like that. Get the grilled chicken taco, something that's gonna be a little bit less processed. You know that it's not battered and fried, and it's just going to allow you to make a little bit better of a decision rather than going with I don't know Crunchwrap Supreme or something just disgustingly unhealthy. Now snacks. This is a big one because we want to try and plan on those 10 snacks that we've prepped throughout the week. We want to have one mid-morning and we want to have one mid-afternoon, which that can also be your pre-practice or pre-lift or pre-workout snack that you're going to put into your body. If we're meal prepping, right, beef jerky is a great way to go. Having a Greek yogurt and fruit. A peanut butter and jelly sandwich can be a great way. Nuts with a protein shake or a protein chips and fruit. The protein chips is actually something that I've been recommending to a lot of people lately. There's a company called Quest, and there's a few other ones. You can get them at almost any store, and they're going to be a whole lot better option than eating a bag of Ruffles. And in reality, we need to realize that we're dealing with high school kids, and I'd much rather them have a bag of Quest protein chips than them have a bag of barbecue Lays or something like that. And then on the go, right, again, that ready to drink protein shake, a protein bar, a bag of nuts. I know that doesn't check the protein box, but it's a good solid number of calories. A Quest protein cookie, that same company that makes the protein chips. The Quest protein cookie can be a very good way to go. And then really just a simple string cheese and a chocolate milk. If I was to give one thing to an athlete on the snack side of things, it might be a chocolate milk. It's got a great protein. Chances are it's got the fewest amount of additives out of any of this. And it's going to be pretty easily digestible as long as you're somebody who can handle lactose well. And then what do I eat pre-practice, game, or lift? Now, this can be a little bit of a tricky one because we want to limit the number of fats going into our body before a game, practice, or lifts. Fats have a tendency to make us a little bit lethargic. So what we recommend is a complex carbohydrate, something that's going to give you a great amount of energy, right? Moderate protein, low in fat, and lots of hydration with electrolytes. So shown here is like a granola bar. This could be a granola bar or a protein bar, a piece of fruit, and one of these hydration modifier or multipliers. Obviously, regular water works just fine. But having something that's a good complex carbohydrate, right? Not a Snickers bar, a Nature's Valley bar or a Quest bar or something like that is going to get the job done. A fruit's going to give you a good number of carbohydrates, and then that water is going to be a very important thing, especially when we want to make sure that we're performing as well as we can. Now, what should I eat directly before bed? And this can be kind of a complex one because the answer to it is simple and it depends, right? It depends on what do you have left in your day to hit your calorie goals, right? So for most people, they get to the end of the day and they realize, man, I'm way behind on my protein. So we recommend them taking a protein shake before bed, or what I like to recommend is this. This is the Faye lactose-free Greek yogurt. Do that with a scoop of protein powder and mix that up. Mix it up really well. Put it in the freezer for 5 or 10 minutes. Pull it out, and it's almost like ice cream. So if you're like me and you've got a sweet tooth before bed, and you're trying to hit some nutrition goals, this can be a really good way to go. Give you a little bit of a treat and allow you to hit your goals. And I know we mentioned earlier the importance of breakfast and breaking that fast. And we referenced, if you had dinner at 7 p.m. and breakfast at 7 a.m., what can you do to limit that amount of time? And putting fuel into your body at say 10 p.m. before bed is really going to limit the amount of time that you're in a fasted state, because as you're sleeping, your body is constantly digesting and processing through that food. So it's got a fuel source. So we're constantly growing and getting better. Now, one thing to consider is there's different types of protein. If you have access to a casein protein rather than a whey, that's a great option because a casein is a slowly digestible. So your body's going to be working on it for longer than, say, a whey protein, if that makes sense. And then there's a big one, safe and smart supplementation, right? So what do you actually need? And what that is simple. We're going to start with whole foods and hydration. From there, we're going to get great sleep and recovery. Once we've checked those two boxes, then we're going to go with, I need to turn this on Do Not Disturb. Then we're going to go with supplementation. And for me, supplementation is a pretty straightforward, simple thing. We recommend a protein powder. We recommend a greens powder because we are dealing with high school age athletes who do not eat vegetables. If you get your kid to eat vegetables, or if you're a high school kid who eats vegetables, kudos to you. I don't know how you do it, but that is remarkable. So a greens powder, there's a company called Driven that puts out one that actually tastes pretty good. Creatine, I think that is a phenomenal thing for every athlete, every human taking creatine. The benefits of creatine cannot be disputed. It's something that a simple Google search can clear up for you. And both from a cognitive standpoint and a performance standpoint, creatine is a absolute necessary thing for athletes to be taking. And if you play a contact sport, research has been showing that creatine has a great impact in your recovery post-concussion. So your brain's ability to be resilient and recover from a concussion is greatly improved if you have creatine supplementation in your body pre and post-concussion. That's something that you should Google and look into a little bit for yourself. But the research on it is pretty clear and pretty interesting about its role on the brain's safety during concussions. And then the last one is ZMA, right? This is zinc, magnesium, and B6, which are things that you should be taking anyways from a health standpoint. But this is something that I ask my athletes to take before bed. It gives you that zinc, magnesium, and that B6, but it also really helps you get into a deep, restful sleep so that you're recovering as much as possible. A lot of athletes, if you're a highly wired and motivated athlete, you a lot of times you struggle to go to sleep. And this ZMA is a great natural way to do it without relying on something like melatonin to kind of knock you out. The ZMA is a phenomenal thing, and it's something that's really going to help you recover while you are sleeping. And then what is a safe supplement? If you're looking at any supplement, it needs to have these logos on it, right? The logos mean the same thing, but they can look different. And this means that what you're taking, number one, does not have any banned substance in it, and it is not made in a facility that does anything with a banned substance. So that way, let's say you do run into a situation where you're being drug tested, nothing's going to pop, and you know that absolutely everything you're putting in your body is trusted and safe for a young athlete. So if it does not have this on the side of the bottle for a protein powder or a greens powder, or if you feel like taking it a pre-workout, which I don't think you should take it, If it does not have this on it, do not take it because just about anybody can make a pre-workout and call it safe. But unless it's got this on it, it's really not. So make sure that it's got one of these two things on the backside of that jug. And if it doesn't have it, move on and find something that does. Now, what does an ideal day look like from a nutrition standpoint? If we look at our whole day, right, we want to think at about 6:30 a.m., we're taking in breakfast. That's your high protein, complex carb, and healthy fat. At 9 a.m., we're having our snack. That's going to be our high protein snack. At around 11:30 or whenever your school lunch is, we're going to have it as healthy and clean as possible. Some of those options that we added in before. And again, kind of following that 80-20 rule, where 80% of the time we're making great decisions, maybe 20% of the time you let yourself get after it a little bit. At 3:30 p.m., we're looking at our pre-practice or pre-game or pre-workout, where we want that good complex carbohydrate, high protein, and lighter fat. Around 7 p.m., we're looking at dinner, right? This is your third solid meal of the day. This is your high protein, complex carbohydrate, and healthy fat. And then right before bed, that's our bedtime snack, where typically we're looking at a good high protein option so you can hit your protein numbers for the day. Again, we want to shoot for that 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight. And then where do we go from here? How do you begin to implement these nutrition strategies into your life? Step one is start tracking your food for the next 7 days so you know exactly where you are and what changes you need to make. You need to start meal prepping those 5 breakfasts and 10 healthy snacks. And then you need to begin eating intuitively. That's after your 7 days of tracking. Once you really get the hang of what you need to put in your body in order to be successful, begin eating intuitively, and then track your progress and make adjustments as needed. One thing I always try and tell people is that progress is never going to be linear. On a scale, you're never going to gain that healthy 1 to 2 pounds a week, right? You might have a week where you gain 3. You might have a week where you lose 1. Progress is never going to be linear. So have that mindset that you're going to hit speed bumps and you need to course correct when needed, and just have the maturity level to understand that you can always get back on track. Now, what are some action steps if you want to start implementing this performance nutrition into your daily life? Number one, you need to determine your body weight goals. And in addition to that, not just body weight goals, we want to determine our performance goals. What do you want out of your sport? Do you want to be a college athlete, or do you want to just have a great high school career? If the answer is to just have a great high school career, that's 100% fine. But you want to make sure, if you want to play in college, and let's say you are a 180-pound linebacker, that's not going to work. They cannot recruit you at 180 pounds. So what are your body weight goals for you to become a recruitable athlete? And that's really important to determine sooner rather than later. I get a lot of people who come into my gym and they're going into their senior year and they need to gain 40 pounds. And like, we can do it, but I'm not going to coach you through that because that's not healthy for you. You need to get after it earlier. So your freshman and sophomore year, you need to start getting an idea of what you need to be like so you are a recruitable athlete. Number two, you need to call a family or team meeting to get the whole crew on the same page. Nothing is harder than following a meal plan when the person next to you is having the food that you really want. So getting the whole family on the same page is a very beneficial thing. And I'm willing to bet you that everybody in the family can probably benefit from cleaning up their nutrition just a little bit. And then the third one is to be consistent. But as I mentioned before, that nothing is linear. You're going to hit roadblocks, and be ready to make those course corrections as needed. Now, that's really the end of our presentation. One thing I want to mention to you is if you want to dive deeper into nutrition, we offer a 12-week nutrition coaching program where we work with you one-on-one to dive deeper into performance nutrition. You get custom coaching on macronutrient goals. So I help you set up what number of proteins, what number of carbs, what number of fats you need to be hit every day in order to get to the goal that you want to get. We have weekly communication via email. We can get on the phone. We have one monthly face-to-face call. And then we do progress tracking. So we make sure that what we're doing is working, because if it's not, we need to course correct and get in the direction that we need to go. And the last thing that I'll show you is a testimonial for somebody who just went through this program. Um, this young man, Blaine's going into his senior year. He's got the goal to play in college, and he added 26 pounds of solid muscle in 17 weeks. We started working together. He needed to get to a certain weight in order to get attractions from the Division I schools that he wants to go play at, and we are well on the way to hitting that weight goal by our July 1st date. So you think that 26 pounds in 17 weeks, that's exactly what we can do with proper nutrition, proper coaching, and the right amount of accountability on your end. So again, thank you guys for taking the time to check out this nutrition webinar. I hope the information was beneficial for you. And if you have any questions, all of my contact information is on my social media. You can give me anytime. I'm more than happy to jump on a phone call, help you strategize. And if there's a way that we can help you hit your nutrition goals, we'd sure love to help you out. Again, be well. Thank you for coming. And we look forward to talking to you soon. Have a good day.